Hello again. Today's video is going to be on the upcoming Jupiter-Venus conjunction. As many of you know, Jupiter has been in Cancer since June of 2025, and Venus has joined him this month, and their connection and conjunction will become more and more tight. Today, on the 8th of June, and tomorrow, June the 9th, it's going to be a lot stronger. So I have a few warnings for the fire signs, and I figured this would be a really good video to do because we're covering the deeper meaning of the houses on Patreon. So why not just go through what this conjunction means through the signs? So I've also challenged myself to keep this to 20 minutes by putting my lunch in the oven. So I can't go over, it's going to burn and I'll be hungry. So let's get into it without further ado. Let's start with what it means. Jupiter, as we know, is the teacher planet. He's a Brahma planet. Jupiter rules our morality. He gives an abundance of everything and anything. Because he's the largest planet in the solar system, wherever he goes and whatever he touches tends to expand, for better or for worse. So if he's retrograde or debilitated, it can be a little bit challenging in people's charts. I have a retrograde Jupiter. Makes me question a lot of things in life about God. Venus, much the same. If she's retrograde, it can make the person a lot more desirous around relationships and lovely things, okay, luxuries, wealth in a different sense, like having nicer bed sheets and things like that. Venus is also a Brahman planet. Jupiter and Venus are the two teacher planets. Venus taught Jupiter everything he knows, whereas Jupiter consorts with the divine, the higher energies, to teach us. Venus goes everywhere, above and below. Venus, or Shukran, is said to consort with demons. So we could actually get a lot more mystical or unseen information like the occult from Venus as well. So when they combine, it's a lot of good energy, but sometimes it's too much. And although one of my favorite quotes is Mae West, she said, "Too much of a good thing can be wonderful." I think that applies to like chocolate and money, but then sometimes it can be a little bit stressful in other cases. So without further ado, let's see what this could mean for the different signs. Okay, so starting with Aries, if you're Aries rising, Aries moon, this is happening in your fourth house. So we discussed the part one of the houses a few days ago. So the fourth is the mother. It's your happiness, your past, your heritage, memories. Okay, the fourth is good for historians. People who have a giant like Jupiter or Saturn in the fourth can do very well with history and research as well. The fourth is also cars, and Venus also rules cars. So you might upgrade your car if it's with Jupiter, if she's with Jupiter. Your mother can be a little bit happier. You could also grow a savings account. It's not explicitly a financial house, but it's where resources pool. So we talked about this. So that could be quite beneficial. And I mentioned cars. Venus rules the color white. You might get a white car. You might get a new skateboard, pair of rollerblades. You might be invited to go on a boat. Things that you might buy new bed sheets for your bed, a lamp for your home, things like this. Okay, it's something to do with the house. If you're moving or renovating, Jupiter makes things bigger. So you might move to a bigger space. You might find you're pregnant. You upgrade to a 2-bedroom or a starter home or a larger family home. Something like this. You might beautify your space with Venus there. You might take a nice bath, things like this. So that's for Aries. Not too bad. Also aspects the 10th house. Okay. Quite nice. And yeah, it could be good for job, could be good for gaining opportunity. Might come through a woman, might come through someone that you were mentored by, you were a mentee, something like this. Okay. If you're a Taurus rising, then this would be happening in your third house where you showcase your talents to the world. So Jupiter could bring opportunity for this. The third is also to apply oneself. And so it rules writing. It rules the hands. You write. So you could literally send out applications. Pardon me for the smoke. I have incense going. I wanted to clear the energy. So applying one, you could dance. Okay, that's a nice one. You could, your siblings could be blessed if you have siblings, especially younger siblings, or even cousins, neighbors. Some healing can come to these people. Okay, it's in Cancer, which is a healing sign. So that's quite lovely. Okay, especially if it's younger, it's a sign of youth. So a younger sibling, a younger cousin, but it could obviously be anybody that's close to you in this regard, including proximity, such as neighbors and neighborhood. The third is also the house of motion. So you might find more enjoyment. I mentioned dancing, writing, being more mentally agile, communicating better. You might remedy rifts. You might be called in by HR and manage to get your side of the story set straight, something like this, okay? So not bad at all. If you have an online presence, it can definitely boost your profile as well. Good with communication. And so next, we're going to move to Gemini ascendant. If you're Gemini rising, this happens in the second house. So here's the good and the about it. So the good part is obviously money. The second is your actual assets that you acquire. It's a house of acquisition. So if you run a business, you can get some amazing inventory in stock. It can go up. If you invest, those things could benefit you in some sense. You could just find money, make more money, something like that. Also, really good for speech because, again, Venus is there. You could remedy problems, say the right thing, negotiate accordingly, and such. It can also bless your parents. The second is the immediate family. When we went through the wheel, the zodiacal wheel, the chart, I said, the second is who you're passed off to once you're born. So that could be quite blessing, okay? And just like Aries in the first house, when not sorry, the first house, Aries, the fourth house, my bad, can also deal with food, and the second house is to eat. Okay, so the issue is the good thing is the money. You might spend a little bit more. You also might make a little bit more. And it aspects the eighth house if you're Gemini rising. So this can also bring in, good tax returns, things people owe you money, they could pay you back. You can get some kind of payout or something like this, a bonus, for example. However, in terms of food, these are both very indulgent planets. Okay. Jupiter, Venus rules sugar. Jupiter also could be a lot of something. Jupiter rules food. Jupiter is a blessing. And the Sanskrit word for blessing also translate to food. I think it's prasada, which means blessing. So you might find yourself eating more this summer or this month, in particular this week. So you might feel like, or you were, and you're going to slow down in July. But yes, you can find yourself eating too much. The caution is the sugar and rich foods. Venus likes cream, heavy sauces like French cooking, butter, ice creams, things like that. So just know that you need to be mindful if there's some kind of health problem or whatever, that you're not overeating and giving yourself too much stimulation through chocolate and sugar. Okay. But all in all, pretty good for communication, pretty blessed for parents, pretty blessed for your own wealth. So that's excellent. Good start. Then we come to Cancer rising. So if you're Cancer rising, it's obviously, or moon, it's happening over your moon or your first house. So the first things first is Jupiter makes everything bigger. This includes optimism. So this is very, very blessed. This is incredible for luxury. You could be gifted something. Yeah, you could just find yourself feeling really good. I would say the other thing to be mindful is making impulse decisions because Jupiter rules um, around money. Okay, Jupiter rules the sixth of Sagittarius, and we put the sixth lord in the first, then we could be too optimistic about taking out a loan or lending or borrowing money. The sixth is ledger systems, we borrow and lend, and it's health. So what tends to happen is when the sixth lord is in the first house by transit, then any type of illness or event that results in an injury shows up on the body, like a scar, a burn, a cut, bleeding, whatever. Okay, something that's visible on the face, like a rash, hive, sunburn. So be mindful if you're out. Weather's getting warmer in the northern hemisphere, so we want to be responsible. In any case, so that's sixth lord in the first I wanted to mention. The other thing is it can add weight. So people can gain weight, okay? When Jupiter and Cancer are to get Jupiter's in Cancer, over the moon or the ascendant, or in any sign over the ascendant or the moon. But it's also with Venus, so it's a little bit more indulgent, as I mentioned. Okay, so all in all, not too bad. It also forms a partial, it makes like a Dana yoga, which is a wealth producing yoga. Venus rules the 11th house for Cancer risings. So that would be 11th Lord in the first, which is good for money. You might get a gift of some kind. A sibling could give you something, a neighbor could give you something. You can get a bonus, you can get a raise, your investments could be doing better, things of that nature. So that's actually quite nice. We love that. That's a good thing. And it could also bring some healing to the home as well, because Libra also rules the fourth house for Cancer risings. And so we put that in the first. It could bring things to the surface with our moms or ourselves and resolving things in the past. Another thing is because Libra rules the fourth, and also for Aries risings as well, because this conjunction's in the fourth house, Jupiter in the fourth, Saturn in the fourth, Venus in the fourth, or these combinations, like we have Jupiter Cancer, sorry, Jupiter Venus conjunction, is the dispensation of wisdom or giving advice. Okay, so sometimes it's good advice, sometimes it's not good advice, but there's a lot of it. So be really discerning what you take into your consciousness. If you're watching something online, you're a Cancer, Aries rising, and other signs I'll mention. Just ask yourself, do I need this in my consciousness? Do I actually need to, like, am I even informed, or am I just overstimulated by the news? Like, is this actually doing me any good? If you don't want it in your spirit, be like, I don't want this in my spirit. You don't need everything in there all the time, right? And same goes, like, people ask you for advice. Are you actually equipped to give that advice? So if you're going to seek a professional, like for counseling, if you don't like them, find someone else, okay? Because it probably could be indulgent waste of time. So just be very mindful. Do your due diligence, do your research, and find out what works. So now, Leo, I have warning signs for Leos and Sagittarians. So for Leos, okay, there's some very, very nice things here. The conjunction is in the 12th house of dreams, fantasy, great wish fulfillment, foreign contacts, traveling, going abroad, having spiritual experiences, going to like churches, temples, ashrams, synagogues, mosques. Okay, very nice for contemplation, very nice for travel for the sake of enrichment and cultivation, not necessarily going abroad to get drunk and like party, but really like look at the architecture, learn about the history, or to get away from the world. That's another, just get away from the world. When Jupiter goes through the 12th, wishes can come true. So if you're a Leo moon or rising, Jupiter is in Cancer until the 30th of this month. So let's say until July the 1st, until he enters Leo. So there's still a good 3 or so weeks for a big wish to be fulfilled if it hasn't been fulfilled in the past year. And this could be whatever that is to you. It could be getting married, meeting someone, having a child, winning something, finding something, and so forth. And Venus is also cars. So again, you could get a better vehicle or something like that. Better sleep for sure. I encourage meditation. I encourage reflection and prayer. I really encourage everybody to pray really hard today, but especially on the 9th, Tuesday the 9th. Pray for doors to open, every sign. But Leo, this is in the house of, spiritual work. So I feel like this is very beneficial. The warning is the 12th is loss. So it dissolves things. So there could be an impulse to spend money on indulgent things that we don't need, but maybe we want. Like maybe you want an $80 candle. Do you need it? No, you can get an $8 candle. You don't need a candle, maybe. Who knows? So to be a little bit too optimistic and too happy to start swiping our credit cards and things like that. So be mindful around that. And if you're going abroad, again, make sure you pull back and actually question how much budget what you're going to allot to entertainment, to food, to adventure, and such, because you can get carried away with this conjunction. For Virgos, this is happening in the 11th house. So it's actually okay. It's the 11th is an auspicious house, so it can give raises. It's a very good time to start investing. If this aspects your 11th house, is in the 11th house, touches one of your financial houses, this is an excellent week to start learning how to invest and putting a little money, okay, $5, $20, whatever, towards those things. It can bring opportunities for work. It can bring it through people. You could be referred, especially through a woman, maybe a former mentor, if you had a teacher like Jupiter. It's really good for healing. Okay, also for Leo risings and moons as well, right? Like the 12th house can be very healing spiritually. And in this case as well, you could heal something to do with social circles and social groups. It also aspects the 7th house by trine. So again, good for relationships for Virgo moons and risings. A lot of opportunity to meet people. In the 11th house, you can go viral, for example. You can get more of a profile on your LinkedIn, or somebody remembers your name, pulls it out of the ether, gives you a job opportunity or romantic opportunity, says, my tenant's leaving. Do you know anyone? And they're like, yeah, my friend's looking for a place, and they contact you. Okay, so a lot of cool things. I also feel like there can be healing for wildlife, because when we're going to discuss the houses on Patreon again, I'm going to explain that the 11th house rules a certain type of animal. So that's actually quite beneficial for the world. But yeah, for Virgos, really good for money. What earth sign doesn't like money? Or I don't care about the sign. Everybody wants money. That's just the truth. So yeah, you could see maybe yeah, some increase in that regard. Social invites. And then the 11th house is long-term goals, something you've been working toward for at least 1 year, a degree, college diploma, a master's degree, planning your wedding, planning the arrival of a child, moving, purchasing a car, a large purchase, all right? Those things can start to get some traction. You can find some blessing with that and finally achieve some kind of closure, all right? So it's the house of gains, long-term gains. So something you've wanted for quite a while. Even if it's like you've been growing your hair out for 3 years, you might start to see some amazing progress, okay? Something you've worked on. So again, like I'm a Virgo rising. So for me, I have a sneaking suspicion this week I'll get a few readings. I've been fallen off for other life responsibilities I had since last year, but I'm sort of slowly coming back. Okay, so that can increase now. I can get more emails, people inquiring. Okay, that's great. That will make me money. Great. Now, if you're a Libra rising, then this is in the 10th house. So this is really good for job opportunity, success, recognition, reward, and reputation, right? The 10th is the result of our effort. So this is where we can actually measure success. So it's also a success yoga because Venus rules Libra, and first lord in the 10th or 10th lord in the first is indicative of success. So if there's Libra risings or moons that have been working on something, this week could be the week to prove that you get some good feedback on it. You can actually get promoted. You can get an opportunity to interview. You could get your idea picked up for a project. You can become project manager, something like that. So there's opportunities and it's looking very, very nice. Because the 10th is so visible and it deals with our reputation, if you're not working for whatever reason or you're not career oriented, it can also shift reputation, meaning you can go from being single to meeting someone, in a relationship to engaged. You can change your address. You can change where your residency is, your tax residency or your neighborhood. So that's a visible change to the world. You could physically experience a change as well. Venus is probably beautifying. Okay, that's the truth, like some kind of procedure. But all in all, not bad. Okay, so that's quite good. If there's a job change, it would be positive. It would obviously be something with a lot of opportunity. So we love that. That's quite nice. So for Libras, that's quite stellar. Okay, it's looking good. It's also aspecting the fourth house of happiness. It could bring in some semblance of joy. Venus is also the eighth lord. So eighth lord in the 10th can break the 10th house, meaning again, if you don't get a job that you wanted, you'll probably find something better after. There could be, it's amazing what can happen the second time around. So something better can come along, or you will fail in something and then try again and succeed the second time. So I would be steadfast if I was a Libra and keep working on that. And I would also add that there's also possibility that you'll find something if you're looking for work through people. And bonus tip in 5 days on June 13th, Libra, Venus leaves Cancer and bumps into Leo before 2 weeks before Jupiter. So Jupiter will go on the 30th of June, so around 2 weeks. Libra will go ahead, Venus will go ahead into the 11th house. And that can also make you a lot more social, more traction on LinkedIn, references, referrals, help from friends, help from colleagues, help from your social circle, and especially help from women. So keep your eyes and ears peeled if you're looking for opportunities, investment opportunities, job opportunities, dating and social opportunities, groups to join. Okay, that will be a good path to be alert, just be aware of. Next, we have Scorpio rising. This is very, very beneficial. So yay for Scorpio moons and risings. This conjunction is in the 9th house. Why is that so spectacular? Jupiter is a planet of luck. The 9th house is the house of luck and destiny. So this is awesome. If any Scorpios need to take an exam, move abroad, apply for a visa, apply for some type of benefit, any paperwork, any legality, you're signing a lease, you're signing a contract for a new job, car lease, car loan. It's lucky because the 9th is all legalities. So like whatever the law lords over, which is basically everything, but especially learning. It doesn't have to be like a university. It could be spiritual learning, more books, spiritual institutions, spiritual guidance. I actually got off the phone with a Scorpio rising friend just before recording this, and they were like, do you know what? They grew up super Christian and they were like, I'm interested in like seeing what else is out there. I'm gonna start going to like temples and synagogues and mosques and check it out. And I'm just like, wow, that's really cool. You should. You've got this amazing conjunction in your 9th house. You're seeking. So you're expanding knowledge. And the 9th is also travel long distances, especially within one's borders. So You could take a small road trip. You could move to another city within your state or province or country, something like this. So there's a lot of opportunity. If you're married, it's a condition of marriage, so that could improve. It could feel better, more lovely, or more romantic, joyful, and fun. Okay, Jupiter's happiness. It could be healing. Cancer is also the sign of conception. So if you're a Scorpio rising, then Pisces rules your fifth house. And in Bhavat Bhavam, the fifth from the fifth is the ninth, making it the secondary house of children. So actually, if you're trying, you could find yourself pregnant. If you've been thinking about children, you could just be more fertile, so be mindful whether you do or don't want them, that this is a probability for Scorpio moons and risings now. But generally quite lucky, good for travel, good for learning, is blessed. It's even good to get married. So it's very, very good. Okay, so shout out to Scorpio. Then we arrive to Sagittarius. So I do have a warning, just like I had with Leo's about money. Sagittarius is a little bit more intense. So for Sagittarius risings, when the first ruler, which is Jupiter, Jupiter rules Sagittarius, goes into the eighth house of Cancer, it exalts. That's great. Everybody wants an exalted chart ruler. It makes your life 80% easier. Sagittarians are one of the exceptions to this because they're already so optimistic, like incurably optimistic. It can make them a little bit naive. So when you put Jupiter in the eighth house for Sagittarius rising, or in this case also from the moon, it makes them very accident prone, literally. They could fall from a height, they can fall down. So if you're a rock climber, a skateboarder, you want to jump out of a plane, don't do it this month. Like, wait a few days until July rolls around. It could also be not literal, but let's say with investment. Or you go, oh, I'm going to lend my friend $5,000. They're good for it. I've known them since kindergarten, but you live paycheck to paycheck. Then now's not the time to give your friend that money. Okay, just a warning. So, warning not to be too optimistic. If you're opening a business, if you're buying more stock to sell and you're confident about something, but you haven't done your research, things can flip. Be very mindful if you're Sagittarius rising or moon, okay? Don't be overly hopeful. It can go sideways. So now, the good part is this. It's really good for research or any kind of learning. If you're any kind of higher education, if you're self-employed, you want to know more, you can teach yourself bookkeeping, you can teach yourself about gems. This is an excellent combination in the eighth house for jewelry, for gemstones, learning about precious stones, how to measure their value, buying jewelry, antiques, finding precious things on the ground. I'm not joking. I'm not kidding. I had one woman who was also Jyotishi, and I looked at her chart. We were looking at each other's charts, and I said, do you find valuable things all the time? But history, like historical things, because Pisces is in the fourth house. So fourth lord in the eighth, with Venus, which is precious things, in the eighth house, which is things that are found underground and you have to research, like it's quite old, because the fourth house is history. And they said, yes, I go antiquing all the time. It's my greatest passion. They were already wealthy because of their work, but they enjoyed, even though they were American, they enjoyed Tudor history, like Henry VIII, Queen Elizabeth. So they had actually accumulated a small private collection of Tudor items, paintings, even jewelry that's 500 plus years old. And they had this like room dedicated to their project. And they were like, I just get in the car, I go to this fair, I go that. And what's that thing called where they travel around the antique market thing, that show, antique show, whatever, you know what I mean? And they praise things. Like they should be on there. They would have millions. So you can actually find precious things. You can, if you're into like Tantra, if you're very spiritual, this is amazing for energy work, for getting Reiki, having out of body experiences, recording your dreams, getting some kind of energy work done, purging, cleaning out the pain. Venus is like a psychological healer. And in the eighth house is the house of trust. You can find trust is repaired by the time this transit ends. You feel a lot better about life. A lot of your happiness is restored, which every Sagittarian genuinely needs. It's not an option. They need to be happy or they're going to go insane. So really, really good transit. And if you're married or living with a partner, you have children with them, something like very serious long term, then that partner could end up making more money as well. Because Jupiter, second from the seventh, would indicate that the spouse starts to earn more money. They get a promotion, or, God forbid, but it happens, they can get an inheritance. Okay, something like this. And if your car breaks because Venus is there, it'll be remedied, and there's probably going to be insurance for it. So you'll be fine. Jupiter's going to protect you. Jupiter's going to clean it up. Okay, for Capricorn, this is in the seventh house. So this is actually quite influential because it's the opposite sign. So it can expand, first and foremost, relationship opportunities, meeting more people in a romantic sense or platonic sense, business associates, things like this. The seventh is society. It's the farthest from myself. In Gemini astrology, the sign of Cancer is foreign countries, and the seventh house is also the farthest from the first. So Capricorn moons, risings, they can probably experience a trip. And I know a person with a Capricorn stellium with the moon in, and they have planned a 5-week vacation, and they leave slowly just after June. So they'll be gone all summer pretty much, or the best month of the summer. So they can travel, you can meet people, and it's very good for business. Why? Because the seventh house in Bhavat Bhavam, again, is the 10th from the 10th. So this is very good for negotiation, hiring new employees, again, seeking out good inventory, getting a good buyer, getting good deals, negotiating a good space, okay? Very good for business. Anything you do, if you work a 9 to 5, you have a boss, you can negotiate better terms or get a project done that you wanted. It's also good for healing the mother because the seventh is the fourth from the fourth. So awesome. Okay, so it could be very, very good for the mother, getting more happiness, getting something that your mother wants out of life, meeting new friends, buying new things. You might treat them to something. In general, this is an adventurous thing. I think this is fun that it's happening seventh. Capricorn usually gets like fuddy-duddy reputation. I don't know why. I don't find Capricorns dull at all, but then again, I'm an earth sign, so I think they're cool. Okay, I don't know, like whatever. I like them, so I think yeah, they're actually going to have a lot more fun, and they should be given a chance to express themselves, to showcase themselves in the world. But really good for jobs. I mean, this month too, I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of Capricorns were given promotions or giving better opportunities to prosper. Okay, so I can see that. I think that's quite good. So very fertile combination. If you are married, I would just say the only warning I would say is Venus passing through the seventh with Jupiter, either or, but together. It can bring a lot of attention to the person. So be mindful. If you have a wandering eye, do not give in to temptation. And if your spouse does, make sure that, they know not to step out of the boundaries of your marriage. Okay. It's one of the combinations that can bring in too much attention, what we would call cheating or unfaithfulness, being too desirable, okay, too seductive, etc. Apart from that, yeah, I think that's it. I feel like there's one more thing unless it escapes me. But generally, yeah, good to network and get ahead for Capricorn risings, okay? Yeah, but if you're single, it can help you meet more people, so that's quite nice. And it's also the house of sex. The seventh is the house of sex, so it can make you very lusty. It can make you fertile as well. Okay, next we have that would bring us to Aquarius rising. I don't know if I've forgotten anybody. I hope not. Okay, Aquarius risings. This combination would then be in the sixth house. So not too bad. Okay, two benefics in the sixth. First of all, let's get the negative stuff out of the way. If you've had issues with divorce, the sixth house is the house of divorce. Jupiter is heavy and he's exalted in Cancer, so he's even more powerful. You don't have to do much. If you're being sued, if you're going through divorce, a breakup, have issues with your bank statements, you need to, cancel some transactions, like you were scammed or something like this, okay? Jupiter is heavy, okay? He will bear down on your problems, including financial problems. So I'm very, very hopeful that as he finishes out his transit in Cancer, he'll be able to offer relief to people going through breakups, accusations, gossip, issues with HR, people who've been put on PIP at work, okay, performance improvement plan, things like this. So I'm hopeful that they can get some kind of relief because it's the 11th Lord also that's gone into the sixth house. So sometimes that can increase animosity around coworkers and social circles, groups, friends, whatever. But because of Jupiter, it will get rid of people that don't need to be there and it will actually bless you. Okay, so that's quite nice. And Venus is there, so healing. Now, the other thing I'd like to mention is that this would also mean indulgence. Okay, again with food. So be mindful because it's a house of health. But if you've struggled with something to do with health for a long time, then you can find healing, okay? And I would be mindful about money. You can be too optimistic about borrowing and lending and spending, okay? It's the house of debts, ledger systems, borrowing, lending, etc. So be mindful of that. And then not to get a little creepy, but if you come from a culture that's superstitious and has its own spiritual beliefs on top of like standard religious beliefs, whatever, then things like the evil eye, black magic, curses, gossip, okay? You could be protected. You could be protected. Okay, Venus also rules the dark arts, and the sixth house rules witchcraft. So for Aquarius ascendants, they could experience better juju, like better vibes when this passes through to heal and take out what doesn't need to be there, okay? Animosity and all such things. So I wanted to mention that for Aquarius ascendants. And that would also put the second lord in the sixth, which is Pisces. So Jupiter rules Pisces, goes in the sixth house. So I'm hoping that there is a path to the discharging of debts. Okay, so there's a lot of positive things. So I think that's a good thing. We can celebrate that. Yay. Yeah. And just be mindful about if you own something precious, like you might feel that you have to sell something to pay off a bill, pawn it or whatever. If you really can't bear to be without it, then be mindful. But if you have no other choice, then that's okay. Jupiter will bless you somehow. Something will just work out. People that have this on the 6th and 12th axis, so Leo and Aquarius risings or moons, they will probably find themselves in some kind of challenging situation, but do not believe everything you see, okay? God's ways are past finding out. Something will just work out. I don't know if a stranger is going to bless you, if someone online, you find something on the ground, or you forgot you had something. I remember one time my best friend, she was so bored, she decided to take up learning the guitar. Then she had to move and get rid of her guitar. She moved back to Canada, went on Craigslist, bought an old acoustic guitar for $20. She just graduated like grad school. She was broke and she's like, I need something to do. I'm going to go crazy. And then this is what I'm telling you. This reminds me of this situation. She goes, I got home. She goes, I heard something like moving around, like almost like a rattle in the guitar. I didn't know what it was. And she paid $20 for it in cash. She goes, I flipped it upside down and shook it. And a $20 bill fell out of the guitar. She got it for free, basically. And I was like, that's so Jupiter Venus on one of these axes of like spending and loss. It will come back. Don't worry too much. But anyway, it's very, very healing. It's also physically, literally healing, can be financially healing. And lastly, the sixth is also pets. So if your pets have been going through some kind of health issues, it can also be healing for them. Lastly, we arrive at Pisces. So this is again in the fifth house. So very good for romance, very good for dating, very good for children, creative self-expression. It's on the axis of same as Virgo. So fifth and 11th axis, speculative wealth, investment. But the fifth is a little bit more wild. So the fifth house is actually gambling, like games. So I wouldn't obviously encourage that, but because Jupiter is there, you may enter a contest or a raffle. I mean, like right now on Instagram, I'm seeing all the time on my phone, like tickets for the World Cup for FIFA in Toronto this Friday. There's a game between Bosnia and Herzegovina and Canada. They're giving tickets away. Different pages. People who sign up for that, if they are, Pisces ascendant, they could probably win. They have a better odd, I would say, of winning. Or if they, went to like a church bake sale and there was a raffle, they could like win something potentially. Very good for falling in love. If you have children, very good for your children, especially they're learning. If you're looking to learn something, good for you and for your own education to cultivate yourself. The fifth is also the eighth from the 10th. So this is the house of job changes. If you're looking for work, you don't like where you are, you don't like the deal, what's going on there, that's okay. Something could come from it, okay? And Sagittarius lords the 10th house. So actually Sagittarius, Jupiter goes into the fifth, which can actually break one opportunity and bring another. All right. But it's very good for romance and love. It's very good for learning. It's very good for anything creative, going to a show, putting on a show, expressing yourself. And it's extremely spiritual. The fifth house is all spiritual methods. So tantra, mantra, yantra. Okay. So you could chant, you can pray, You can join in a groups and kind of circle, share stories. You can find this very healing as well. You can find it prospers you potentially. So it's very interesting. So thank you so much for listening. I wish you all the best. You could find out more about me. This is for my patrons. They already know what time it is. But yeah, you can join me on my Patreon. You can find me on TikTok, Instagram. I post often. And my Etsy shop, Guru Grit Astrology, where I do readings and sell out of print and rarer esoteric and occult books that are for my personal library. I would flip the camera around and show you what it looks like my room, but the few times that I've done this, people said that it it sets off anxiety because it's so cluttered. So I need to make room so that I can move and pay off my student loans. So I'm just like, if I've read it, I'm just gonna sell it. So you can find me on there. So thank you so much for listening. I wish you a wonderful week. It's supposed to be a really good week. Mila saying hello, blessing us all, beautiful black cat. But yeah, thank you all so much. Bye for now. And yeah, I love you all. Thank you for being with me. Ciao.